Hi guys, and welcome back to our channel. So we're excited to film this video today. We are going to be talking about the birth story of this little cutie. So this is Sage, and she is 3 whole months. That just seems so crazy. So we recently posted the birth vlog. I'm sorry it's been so long, but we've just been loving on this little girl and just definitely getting used to having a baby. It's been fun, but it's been difficult, but mostly fun, and we just love her so much. Right, Sagey? So anyways, we're gonna be, we're gonna be talking about the whole birth story. It has been 3 months, so hopefully we can remember everything that happened. It wasn't a super normal birth, I would say, not as what I would plan, but it was definitely a miracle, and we're super happy to have her. So if you guys are interested and want to stick around, please do. We're just gonna jump on into the video. Okay, so as I said, it's been 3 whole months, which has been very crazy. And I had everything planned out. I had a birth plan, and I really didn't expect it to go the way that it happened. We ended up, so the week before she came, I had my weekly appointments, and I was actually already dilated to like 2.5 or 3, I think it was, which is really crazy. So I was just kind of taking it easy, and then on that next Tuesday is when all of the like small contractions, I guess, started.
We were getting a few over the weekend.
Yeah, it was
like very sparsely, maybe, you know, a few times a day, but nothing in the, what is it, 10 minutes or 2 minutes apart or something like that?
Yeah, it was just like,
get to before you head on into the hospital.
Yeah, it was very doable. I was not like in a whole lot of pain. It was almost just kind of like little cramps here and there, but nothing that alarmed me that like, oh, I think this is active labor. So I just kind of took it easy, and my sister-in-law actually came over and we went for a little walk, and I think honestly that's what put me into labor, because I tried to do the curb walking and trying all of like the drinks and stuff and eating the dates, and I don't think any of that worked, but I do think walking helped. I think it kind of induced it a little bit. So
you were scheduled that Wednesday that we ended up having her for a
an induction. Yeah. So
thanks for getting that. I forgot the word for a second. So
yes, so we were actually going to be induced on that Wednesday, and so I really wasn't thinking anything about it. And then come Tuesday, I would say evening, probably like dinner time.
It was you ate your dinner because you wanted a salad from Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
So we went and got that, and then we settled down to relax. We knew we were going to be getting up to head over there at 5 a.m. because that's when the doctors wanted us to be there to start the whole process.
Yeah.
And so we were just relaxing that night. I think we were watching a movie.
Yeah.
And you started getting some really bad ones that you had to stand up for, and they were lasting a while.
Yeah,
and they were getting closer together.
Yeah, that's when I was like, oh, well, it might actually be like starting. And I've heard, I know this is like really stupid, but I've heard that like if you schedule an induction, you typically go before that. So that was always kind of in my mind of like, oh, well, if I scheduled it, I might actually go before it, but I wasn't really thinking about it too much.
The baby just knows for some reason. They're like, I'm coming out in my time, not yours.
Yeah.
You can't make me come out whenever you want. Yeah. I'm the leader here.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that Tuesday evening, the contractions started to get a lot worse, and it was like he said, where I could not even like lay down or sit down. I had to like stand up and like lean over the bed or like lean on a dresser because they were just pretty bad. And I was like, well, they're not like super close together, so I really don't want to go to the hospital just to get sent right back. So
yeah, you were getting like a few, like I would say 5 within the period of maybe like 2 to 5 minutes apart consistently, and then they would just stop. Stop for a while, like 30-45 minutes. We were like, okay, we'll be fine to bunker down through the night. But we had our bags ready. Eventually it got to the point to where they were starting to happen more than just 5 at a time.
Yeah, well, and I called my doctor, and I was like, hey, you know, this is everything that's going on. Like, what do you think I should do? Should I head on to the hospital, or do I wait it out? And she knew that I was going to be induced, and she was like, well, if they're not super close together, then maybe try to wait it out. And if they get more intense and closer, then you definitely should head on to the hospital. So I was like, okay, well, you know, that's good. Like he said, we had all the bags bags packed. So we were pretty much ready to go.
We packed around dinner time just to be on the safe side. We didn't want to wake up and start scrambling or have a false alarm or an actual alarm at 3 a.m. randomly, and then we have to rush because we wouldn't know what she's dilated at or anything. We just have to hope and pray that a 20-minute drive went smooth.
Okay, we might pause it. We're going to feed her and try to get her down, and then we'll be right back.
We just fed her. Oh boy,
she'll be hungry. Okay, so she's asleep now. So back to where we were. So yeah, the whole like contractions started happening more frequently, and that's when we started the birth vlog, because we knew like okay, it's probably time. We're not gonna make it to the induction date.
We had little snippets of interviews, mostly just on Lauren and the belly every once in a while.
It's just crazy to look back on.
But we started getting ready. We were just sitting there. We were kind of waiting to see if they were going a little bit closer together before we kind of went. And around midnight 30, I think we decided it was about time to head out.
It was like 11:30, I think it was, or 11:15 that we headed
somewhere in the middle of the night. But yeah, I mean, it was late. We had been up, Lauren had been up since probably 6 a.m., 7 a.m.
And
I was up since 3:45 a.m. So we were already tired. It was gonna be a long night ahead of us.
And we didn't sleep at all like that evening. So we
were busy trying to relax and make sure we had energy for the day, thinking we were to get some sleep that night. But
that's what we were aiming towards, but that didn't really work. So we ended up going to the hospital. We checked into triage, and it was actually, the hospital was closed. So we had to go in like the emergency area, and then they took us up to triage, and that was a crazy thing because at first they weren't even gonna let my mom and sister come. They were just gonna allow one person.
It was that security guard at the beginning, the entrance. They asked some stupid question. Apparently, only the ER was open. But the security guard stopped us and was like, "Where are you guys going?" We're like, "Well, pregnant wife, she's gonna give birth probably tomorrow, so we just need to get to up to triage."
So we checked into the emergency room, took us up to triage. We stayed there for
I'd say about 45 minutes to an hour. We were up there just waiting. She was getting all of her checks done.
So
inspected. They checked to see if she was dilated. And you were like
I was a 6,
7, something like that.
90% effaced.
Which is really good considering she said most women that come in there aren't at all
like that
zero dilated.
So they were like, okay, like we're gonna take you to a room, and then my sister Lindsay and my mom was able to join us, like the whole thing, I was just like, I just want to get to a room, I just want to get hooked up, because I ended up testing for the strep B. I tested positive for that, and you have to have like 4 hours of antibiotics, and I was like, you know, I don't think I'm gonna go that quick, but I just want to get hooked up just in case.
When you're 6, you never know how fast you're gonna go.
Like, you know, I know
getting over that what, from 7 to 10 is like the hardest jump.
Which took forever.
Yeah, it did end up taking forever. So you got your antibiotics in, which is really good.
I think I got like 2 rounds, which is perfect. That's what I needed.
You were originally not going to get the antibiotics either because we thought we were both O negative blood type.
So we both had to be tested. And that was a whole crazy ordeal. But we got the antibiotics, and I got like hooked up and everything, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna get an epidural. I'm gonna do all this natural. Like, it hasn't been that bad. And
emphasis on the hasn't.
And then after sitting there for a while, I was like, yeah, no, I don't think I can go through with this.
Yeah,
like,
you went through a few where you were standing and you were
I couldn't even stand because I was hooked
uncomfortable in pain.
Which was horrible. Like, I wanted to get up, I wanted to get on the peanut ball and like the bounce ball, and I wanted to be able to walk around, and I wasn't able to do that because I was hooked up to this machine, like with the antibiotics and everything, and so I had to literally
wheel that
sit
with
there.
her around. And
like if I needed to go to the bathroom, I had to take that with me.
She got a small bladder.
Thank you.
And she had a baby sitting on that small bladder too, so that just made things even worse.
So it was just super uncomfortable and not at all what I had hoped to be able to do, so that made it a lot worse.
Well, you decided to get the epidural, I think at like 3 or 4 a.m. Which the guy came in, they did it. You actually went through a contraction as they were doing your epidural, but you stayed really strong. You stayed really good.
I was only allowed to have one person too, so he was in there with me, and I was like holding on to him. We didn't film like all of this just because it was super crazy, and I would like, in the moment I was like, I just want to get all this done, and then, you know.
Hey, you pushed through it all. I found out my wife has a very strong grip, and it hurt, but it was worth it. The pain. I mean, I had small pain compared to what you were going through.
It was crazy.
I'm not gonna say anything because I don't have Mary too.
No, it was definitely great to have him there. I mean, he was very, very supportive, and he stood by my side through like the whole thing, even though like we had been there for, it felt like days, and like we had not slept in
We've been up. I had been up for a good solid 27 hours before I finally got a nap, and that was after the epidural. But even after the epidural, she was doing great. She didn't feel any contractions right after.
Yeah, no, it
which
was
really
like
good.
such
but
a relief.
We had a scare. We were just kind of just sitting on the couch, letting her relax and get situated, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of nurses came in, rushed in there, and they flipped you over, and they were doing something.
So I got on my hands and knees because I think it was her heart, or her oxygen, or her heart rate was dropping.
I think her heart rate and her oxygen, because they had to give you like full on, put the mask up to you, give you some direct oxygen because her heart rate was dropping to, I think, 60, 70.
It was pretty scary. Like, I had no clue what was going on. All of a sudden, like you said, all these nurses just rushed in and they were like, get on your hands and knees. I mean, they were very calm about it, but it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, what happened? Like, I just got the epidural. I could barely move. Like, I could not flip over. It was horrible. Like, he had to help me. And
I mean, we didn't really know what was going on. We just saw all these nurses coming. They stayed very calm, which was great for you, because by the time you realized what was happening, Sage was already good.
It was over.
Everything was over, and you know, everyone was safe, and it was all good. But
it was
scary, still a shock after it happened, because.
But apparently, these things do happen after you get an epidural. Which I didn't know. Like, I wasn't going into it thinking I'm gonna get an epidural, so I really didn't research on like what can happen. So all of it was just kind of like a really big scare. But like after I figured out what was going on, she was fine. And the nurses there were amazing. Like, they seriously helped me get through that whole birth. I mean, they were fantastic.
Night nurse and the day nurse. We had to switch out because they had a shift change right about 6, 7 a.m. I took a nap as soon as she had her epidural, and I thought you were going to take a nap.
Yeah, I could not.
But I woke up to a completely different person in there. I'm like, what happened to the old nurse? So confused right now.
Lots of new faces, but all the nurses were fantastic. So after the epidural and the scare, we just kind of relaxed for a little bit. They just kept coming in to check me, and I would progress. I couldn't feel any contractions, which was amazing. I mean, it was like night and day difference. I mean, it was great. Like, I was like, okay, you know, this is good. I figured I'd have her somewhere around lunchtime, like 11:30. I was like, wow, this is great. Like, I'm progressing. Well.
They came in to break your water about, I think, 10:30, somewhere around there.
Yeah, they did that, and it felt great.
Poked it,
it felt so warm and so nice. And yeah, from then on, I was like, okay, well, it's just gonna keep getting better and better. You know, I'm gonna end up just having her and have like no pain, which is fantastic. But I guess kind of as
you kept staying about that 7 mark with the dilation. Yeah. And it never really got any better, and we don't know if that was just from the epidural, just stopping things. We're not experts in this field whatsoever, so we were just kind of.
They gave me Pitocin anyway to speed everything up. So I don't know if everything combined just.
Eventually, I think after he broke your water, the doctor came in and broke your water. He came back, I think, an hour or 2 later, and was like, "We're gonna put you on whatever the
Pitocin
thing to induce, just to start progressing things." And it started progressing, and you got to a 10, probably by around 1:32, but also by around 12:31, your epidural started wearing off for some reason.
Yeah. They tried everything. They tried like the peanut ball. They tried flipping me, different positions, and nothing seemed to be working, which is why they
jogging. Yeah.
Sitting, I mean, literally standing, every single position.
Upside down.
You think
in a plane.
It felt like every time they'd come in, I was just in a different position, and they were like, you know, she's just gonna. Oh, she was sunny side. That's why. So
she couldn't get over. Well, what happened was she was underneath, and she could, whenever you would push, because we were practicing, you know, your pushes, getting your breath in, your positioning right, and just having everything ready so that you could just do your thing, do your 10-second push that they were wanting you to do. And she kept getting to a point, and then Sage's head would hit her pelvic bone, which apparently was too low.
It was the pubic bone.
Pubic bone? Pelvic?
Yeah, the pubic bone.
A bone.
Down there.
It was bent down so that the gap was smaller than what it should have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she just kept having her head sideways, I think is what the nurse kept saying. And she just needed to straighten it out to be able to get underneath eventually. But you had to do a lot more pushing than what should have been necessary. But, and then with the epidural that was gone, like it was not working. They came in and the anesthesiologist came in and was giving you straight up epidural shots through the IV direct rather than through what they had hooked up. And nothing was working.
Yeah, I could feel everything, like any kind of pain I felt. And
especially, but you were still numb. Yeah. You were still numb from the waist down.
Yeah, so like my legs were still like that jello kind of feel. So like it was hard to kind of move, but every single pain I felt.
It was doing everything but taking away the pain, which is what you wanted, because with pushing it underneath that pubic bone, it was a lot more painful because she was gonna tear no matter what. That was gonna be a thing. She was gonna end up tearing. Yeah. Some way or another.
Yeah, it was painful. It was horrible. But I mean, I probably spent a good, what would you say, like an hour and a half,
to an hour,
just like practicing pushing. And when they figured out like, okay, that's not working, we've tried everything else. They were like calling for an emergency C-section because they were like...
They were getting ready to call it.
Yeah, which I was not a fan of. Like I did not want to do that because that would have meant that like, I don't even know if he could have been in there. Like
with an emergency one, I would not have been allowed in there.
It would have been like really, really bad. But at the same time, I was like, well, if this needs to be done, like call it now. Like I want her to be healthy. I just want everything to be okay. And they just kept kind of like prolonging it. And I was like, well, I didn't really know what was going on. Come to find out, my doctor was like not really even on the ball with things. He was like just dilly-dallying around, and the nurses were trying to desperately get a hold of him to figure out what was going on and if they should do this or do this, and he just wasn't responding to them. And so that made it really tough and really stressful. But the nurses really never let on that anything was up. And
well, it was really nice. Probably I would say about 1:30. Sorry, we keep jumping back and forth. We haven't talked about it in a minute, but we had 2 nurses in there compared to just the one we were gonna have. But there was just another one that was just in there filling in for somebody that day who just happened to walk by and hear Lauren practicing her pushes and just got curious and came in, and she decided to stay and help out.
Yeah, so like her shift ended.
2 nurses, which was really nice. And when you were pushing and you were getting close, that they could see the head. Yeah. You just had to get it underneath that pubic bone. Yeah. She was basically getting everything set up just to deliver that baby herself if the doctor wasn't there in time.
Because they were trying, and I was over here like, I don't know if I can wait on him, like you might have to deliver her. And which I know they're trained to do it, so like I would have been completely comfortable.
The baby's coming.
Yeah, but they were like, well, if you can hold on, please do. We're trying to get a hold of him to tell him to come on down. Thankfully, like he was in the hospital just upstairs, and he just needed to get on that elevator and come down because I was ready to push.
When he walked in that room, I'd say he sat down right away, and I'd say within 5 minutes or less, Sage's head was out, and the rest of her came naturally. It's just that head.
Yeah, but I think he knew, like, oh, I should have been here, because like apparently this is coming from my mom. Like again, I was kind of out of it at this time, but his face kind of just dropped, and like he knew something wasn't quite right. And so yeah, like when he walked in, he just like sat down, got his gloves on, and I was like, I'm gonna have to push. Like I felt it, like this was it. And I was pushing and pushing, and it was like the worst pain that I could have ever imagined possible going through. And like,
but you kept pushing through it.
Yeah, but like she just was like hitting up against it. You're strong. Oh, thanks. And it was really scary because I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, what if she can't come out? The nurses were even trying to like stretch me to just give it enough room, and they
hopefully expanded a little bit. Yeah,
I don't know, they were like literally doing everything, and she just would not come out, and that was really scary. And all the pain that I was in, and I couldn't have any more epidurals and any more pain medicine, and like it finally ended with, you've got to get her out, like this is it. And I was like, okay, I just like used everything inside of me to push her out. And I mean, once like her head came out, like it felt better. But then the scary part was when she was coming out, they had the little like, I think it's the Doppler, like the little, that measures the heartbeat. Yeah. And they had that on me, and then all of a sudden they take it off and they're like trying to like go around my stomach to try to find her heartbeat because like she did not have one. And my mom and Lindsay both looked on the monitor, and it flatlined to, is it flatline? Is that the right word? Yeah, it flatlined to like nothing. Like there was absolutely no heartbeat at all. And I didn't know that at the time, otherwise I would have freaked even more. But yeah, come to find out, she had no heartbeat coming out, and it was
down the
really
waist
scary.
region where she was, because you got her underneath the pubic bone.
Yeah.
And then you just had to get the rest of her out, but she was in that narrow gap where she was just getting constricted. So they were telling you like, you got to get her out now. You got to keep pushing. And
and thankfully
painful,
they didn't use any like
kept going.
of those instruments to like
the vacuum.
Yeah, like they didn't have to use any of that, or the forceps, I think it is. They didn't have to use any of that. Thank goodness. I was not wanting to do that.
But, yeah, once you got the head out and you heard her crying.
Yeah, well, they laid her up on me, and looking back on the video, which I didn't put a whole lot in because it's all so like traumatic, and I just wasn't prepared to put that in. But I could tell like, okay, something's not right. Like she was kind of blue. She wasn't crying. It was probably a good, what would you say, like 10 seconds before she actually started crying.
She was crying after though, very well. Once they patted her on the back and got her all cleaned off.
Yeah, and there were so many NICU nurses in there. Like there were probably a good like 5 to 7 NICU nurses that were in there just in case. And after they put her on me and they kind of patted her back, then she let out a cry, and and then they moved her over and they checked her out, and she was healthy, and it was like literally such a miracle. Like it was crazy and it was scary, but yeah, it was such a miracle. Like I definitely, looking back, felt like that God was in that room helping us and was with her, because I don't, it could have been bad. It could have ended very badly, and thank goodness it didn't. And yeah, after they checked her out, she was healthy, and then we got to hold her, and
no bruising either from
that's what they said, that she's probably gonna have bruising, and she's probably gonna have like a cone head just because of how much force was in that with her coming out, and she didn't have any of that. She was perfect. She was this little angel, and it was one of the greatest moments I think that we'll ever experience, just being our first. And like something really cool too that I'll share. Again, I didn't know this. I had a labor playlist that I was wanting to play just to kind of calm me down and to get me through it, and it was all Christian music. And at the time, Elevation Worship came out with their new album, and one of the songs on there is called Another One. And when everything was going on, they just kind of took my phone because it was up by my head. So they took my phone and they just put it over to the side. And when everything was happening and she ended up coming out, Lindsay went to grab her phone to take some photos and videos, and they had paused my music, like that. My phone was completely shut off, like it was not playing anything. And then they go and find the song, and the song that's playing is that song. And it's like talking about a miracle, and it's just really sweet. Like every time I think about it, it just makes me cry because it's like such a special song. And yeah, it was just crazy. And
I'd say we played that song every single car ride for
like it still makes me cry thinking about it, just because it's like it's her song. Like it was the song that God was reminding us, like she is our miracle, and he was there every step of the way. And yeah, we give glory to God for that whole birth. Like he was definitely there. But yeah, after the fact, after we got to hold her and snuggle her, and it was crazy. It was so crazy. We ended up moving into another room, and come to find out I had a third-degree tear. Yeah.
Yeah, they were stitching you up for a while.
So she's getting checked out. They're over here stitching me up.
You were just so mesmerized with staring at Sage.
Yeah, thank goodness for her, because I did not know what was happening. All I know is like there was just a lot of stuff going on down there.
They were down there for a solid 20 minutes stitching you up afterwards.
They had 2 people, the doctor, and then he had a student down there helping him.
He was kind of understudying him, shadowing him that whole day, I think.
But it was crazy. Like,
it was a full room, a small room, and it was full of people.
Full of nurses, full of NICU nurses. I mean, it was crazy, crazy. But after we got into the recovery room, we were able to kind of relax. And she got checked out, I got checked out, and everything came back healthy on her. Her hearing test, her heart test, which, like, again, still makes me cry. Like, that was 100%, like, nothing was wrong. And everything was fine, and it was such a very special moment, and we're just beyond grateful and thankful for family, and I mean, everybody was praying, and because we trust God, and we know that no matter what we go through, He's gonna get us through it. And I mean, that's something to always remind ourselves, that even though we go through dark times and scary times and the unknowns, we just have to trust in God, and you know, His plan is greater than ours. And just like that, my birth plan didn't even go, it didn't happen. And but I know that, you know, this was God's plan, and I think this definitely, like, strengthens us and our faith. And you know, this is kind of like a testimony to us, or at least to me, that, like, you know, she came and she was healthy because of God. And so and fast forward 3 months later, here we are. She is our little miracle baby, and we love her so much, and she's just like our whole entire world, and we are just so in love with her. It's insane. So and
you got to eat deli meat again.
Yes, and I got to, that was my push present. Deli meat, because I hadn't had it in a long time.
Yeah, she feasted that night.
Yeah, that was really good.
That whole sandwich was gone.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was happy you could have it again, because then I didn't have you leaning over my shoulder whenever I was eating a sub. Yeah,
that's very true. So anyways, I am sorry if all of this is all kind of jumbled up. Again, it's been 3 months, so it's just kind of like remembering play by play of what happened. And at the time, I was kind of out of it, and it was just really overwhelming. But from the support of my husband and my family and the nurses and just everybody who was praying for us, and then of course for God, that just got us through. So
God's good.
He's very good.
God is greater than our worries.
Yes, absolutely. So anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this long birth story. I am sorry it's very long, but it was a very traumatic and crazy one, and I really wanted to do a video on this.
If you think it's too long, you can go over to the corner and put it in 2 times or 4 times speed, and you can just and you're good to go.
Yeah, and you guys should check out our birth vlog. Again, it's kind of like snippets of what happened, just because what did happen was pretty overwhelming, and we didn't just want to pick up a camera and start videoing because we were not in that moment. But I'm so thankful that we got everything.
We have the footage, but it's staying in the vault.
Yes.
That's all we're saying.
Yes. But I love watching these to look back and just remember how it happened, and just a little story of our daughter. So yeah, thank you guys.
The continuation of the story.
Yes, absolutely.
However long.
Yes. So, all right guys, well, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you guys are subscribed. And again, go check our birth vlog. We would love you guys to watch it and join our journey. We're just 2 crazy people who go through life and now have a little baby.
You think I'm crazy? Crazy in love with you.
Oh, that's so sweet. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.